Well, the really interesting thing, Martina, about doing these podcasts is we do them like for a couple of hours on a Friday,
Yeah.
and I really look forward to them because it's probably about the one time in the week where I don't get asked to help on a certain maths project or print something or be given a DIY job around the house. So there's sort of mutual respect, but unfortunately just then we had a little gap in the filming, so all of a sudden I had a bombardment of incoming things.
Well, do you know what? Simon and I went back. You remember that a fantastic Professor Kelly, who was the expert on career, and he was being interviewed by the BBC. You know, this kid comes in going like this, and then you know, and then the baby in the walker arrives, and the wife skids in across the floor, and you know, we all kind of just thought that was the most hysterical thing. Who would have predicted that we're all now having to?
And now it's your day today.
I mean, I actually now these 2 hours of doing the Fun Stars and Found Stars podcast are like treasured for me because I know I've got a break. It's kind of
fortress of solitude.
Yes, and yeah, I know I shouldn't think like that, but perhaps lockdown 3 it's certainly a bit more challenging than lockdown 1 and 2. I think
starting to wear on you.
Yes, and but you're looking very well, I have to say, and I love. Yes,
oh, I put a bit of lippy on for you.
Thank you very much. but no, but look, I love to focus on the businesses that I know we've worked with, we've supported. They've supported us as Notwicks as a business, and you know, definitely FeatureSpace. We have a strong bond. It goes back, I think, to 2014 when we first met, and I brought a group of investors up from when we were at Bloomberg up to Cambridge, the science park, and we were meeting the Arms and Bangos, and then we met this company called FeatureSpace, and it was kind of it was probably loads of people in the room are like, that is a great company, that was a great meeting, Martina is fantastic. And you know, how do we invest in them? And I was like, well, look, you know, you talk to Martina, and you know, that's nothing I can help you with at Bloomberg, but I can just show you the great businesses that are being built. And you know, clearly the story's been a rocket ship since then. We kept in touch, you've always updated me, and I've always been really pleased and happy for you with the progress you made. And I suppose really, you know, first sort of question would be, you know, FeatureSpace, you know, the story, where you are, how passionate you feel about the business, what 2021 holds for you. So lots of questions in one, really, which I'm trying not to do. But you know, clearly, just you know, for people who don't know you, if you can give a good intro, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, very happy to. Well, of course, the other thing, Chris, is that as a result of that first trip to Cambridge with those investors, we hired our finance chief, didn't we, Jonathan Crossfield?
There you go. Yes, not
only did you introduce us to investors, but you also have helped us recruit some of our most important people on the leadership team. So thank you for that.
There you go.
So yeah, for your listeners, what do we do? So we invented a fundamental technology, which means it's a technology that had never ever been out there before, and it was machine learning. Our two founders, Dave Excel and Professor Bill Fitzgerald. Bill was head of signal processing and applied statistics at Cambridge University, and a fellow of Christ's College, and he had invented a methodology for adaptive modeling, which means that it was the way in which you teach models to self-learn. And they were using that really to try and work out how you could separate good from bad behavior. And they had all sorts of different trials that were running, but it was the contract with Betfair that took them out of the university. And that was the prototype. So it was the first ever anti-fraud solution in the world that was using machine learning and learning about the behaviors of the players and being able to have confidence around which are the ones that were genuine and which were the fraudulent transactions that were going through. And of course, the other thing about that is that in the betting world, you're taking real-time bets. So you have to have confidence in that decision that you're taking at the moment the bet's being placed. And there wasn't anything like it in the world. So that brought Betfair to university, and then ultimately they invested. And then can you imagine, you know, kind of a wide-haired professor and his PhD student entering an RFP process and then being selected. So, you know, kind of a very unusual start in many respects. And then, you know, at that stage, there weren't an awful lot of companies that were looking for a new type of fraud solution. And the company went through a period of building out the technology, but also trying to work out what other types of use cases there could possibly be for machine learning and a generalized machine learning platform. And, you know, that's the thing that took a lot of time to get right.
Yeah, so that was the period from 14 to 16, or it just, if you...
Yeah, well, probably earlier than that, Chris. So sort of 2008, all the way through to about, around to about 2014. You know, and I think, you know, you can underestimate how long
when did you join the business in essence?
I joined at the end of 2012, and it was at a time when the company, no one in the world had heard of machine learning, not in the commercial world. It was still very much something that was consigned to academia, you know, and that's the thing that's so fascinating. You know, in that short period of time, in those 8 years, you know, everyone does machine learning now. But 8 years ago, no one had even heard of it. It certainly wasn't on anybody's board agenda. And of course, I'd been sitting on the board of many public companies. And although CTOs or technologists would come in and do their presentations, it had never been mentioned, not once, as a revolution that was coming and that everyone needed to learn about it. So it was fascinating going into FeatureSpace, learning all about this, but then really having to work out, well, where is the use case? You know, what can and where in the world can we really disrupt, and where can we make a difference? And I think that comes back to if you're going to make a difference, you want it to be so that it's going to be on a board agenda. It has to be essential technology, and you have to be able to make a significant improvement from what the world already has.
That's quite an interesting aspect of it. So my question is, in the position that you were in, where, you know, you're on the board of these companies and you're saying that there's this gap, what gave you the confidence to know that FeatureSpace was going to be that company that gave you the confidence to ultimately join it? I think that's an interesting aspect of it.
Yeah, probably madness.
Oh, okay.
No,
you either have it or you don't.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing that gave me the confidence was the backing of Mike Lynch. You know, so I'd already launched a technology company for him, which had, you know, is augmented reality. It was inside his innovation labs inside Autonomy, and that was all sold to HP. And so, of course, I came out with him. He then introduced me to his lifelong friend Bill, because Mike had studied his PhD at Cambridge under Bill, and you know, he said to me, they were his words, he's invented a fundamental technology, Martina. He wants to commercialize it, but hasn't quite worked out how to do it yet. Go and help him. And his PhD student, Dave Excel, is really smart too. So when you hear from someone like Mike Lynch that these guys have really invented something that's really new, special and different, for me, to be able to kind of have that lifelong ambition in many respects, which is to take something that has been invented in a British university and to be able to find a global commercial stage for it. You know, that for me was something that was really commercially and professionally motivating. And so where we are today is, you know, FeatureSpace is being used in so many countries around the world. 80% of our revenue is export revenue. 60% of it comes from the US. So, you know, we really have been able to, you know, take a British invention and put it on a global stage and commercialize it.
That is truly amazing, the growth you've seen. And you know, just taking a step back to your comments on Mike, you know, to me, my, you know, meetings and learnings from Mike, which have been very, very small, but I've always felt that he's our Bill Gates. He is the heartbeat of British tech in the last 20, 30 years, without a shadow of a doubt. And, you know, I think him saying that to you must have been an amazing kind of moment where, you know, clearly he will have spotted something, and he clearly did spot something with FeatureSpace. And, you know, so following on from that, the commercialization aspect, because clearly, you know, for most people out there listening or watching, you know, might not know that your business is potentially one of the next most huge cybersecurity companies potentially in the UK, Europe, the world. You know, commercialization has grown from Betfair to many, I think, banks and insurance companies. Just kind of, if you could paint a picture on, you know, last year, COVID business, and looking out to 2021, where the business could be and where it is currently.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel for companies that would have been at the stage that FeatureSpace was at, you know, when we first met now, because it's just so much harder in this world to be able to, you know, to really get momentum behind a business. So if I just go back a step, I mean, we identified a part of the market that we felt was ripe for machine learning. And we went back to that fraud problem. And the more I learned about it, and the more of the people in the market we spoke to, particularly in financial services, we found that, you know, they were the perfect conditions for market disruption. So a problem that was understood, well understood, with a language of technologists. So your scientists to the customer could speak the same language. There was a certain element of technology disruption that was required, because until FeatureSpace came along, fraud was only ever identified historically. So I now know what fraud is, and I can update my model to look for that type of fraud in the future. But what we were able to do was stop fraud in its tracks at the moment at which it was occurring, which was totally novel. And also then to have machine learning models that self-trained, that learned in situ, that learned off the data. And to my knowledge, there still isn't anybody out there who can do that. And so now you kind of, and then partnering with the industry and talking to the industry about the type of disruption that they wanted, and the type of partner that they wanted to work with, that enabled us to put some real business principles in the first place. You know, to really genuinely be on the side of the customer, to really genuinely try to make sure that our technology was going to protect them from financial crime. And that is a long journey, and it takes a huge amount of time to be able to build trust, particularly in that enterprise software world, and a huge amount of time to be able to build reputation. But that, you know, it's a bit like building a fire. You know, kind of, you can't start with putting the big logs on top first of all, but to get, you know, your little pieces of kindling going, and you kind of build gradually until actually you have momentum. So you kind of roll forward now to what's occurring in the world, on the backdrop of that pandemic. The seismic increase in the number of scams and fraud losses that are taking place for companies means that they've all realized they have to upgrade their systems. And, you know, it's one of those magical moments where all of that hard work has led us to a place where we're in the right place at the right time with the right reputation. And, you know, and our tech.
COVID has really accelerated business.
It really has, Chris. I mean, it's almost as if an awful lot of large companies have just decided that now is the time. They have the evidence, their losses are great, and they know they need a technology solution. And our reputation has been built during those, leaner years. And now when companies are talking to the analysts and consultants and advisors, FeatureSpace always gets onto the list, and that is even in the US. One of the analysts said to us the other day, it's amazing, I'm getting more calls about FeatureSpace than any other technology company at the moment. And, there's not a bit of that that's anything other than, oh, how reassuring is that all that work, all that effort, all that proof, and that's the other thing, going back to your earlier question, we could only be in this place if we could prove to ourselves. So there's no, sort of nothing hollow in our story. We are a scientific company. We have scientists who work for us. So in order for the credibility to exist amongst that intellectual capital that we have at FeatureSpace, we have to be genuine, we have to be authentic, we have to be true to ourselves, which means we have to have those values with our customers. And it's those values ultimately, I think, that have won out.
And I suppose, you pointed towards the links with university. Businesses based in Cambridge. I imagine since I last came to Cambridge was a couple of years ago, has grown even more. I mean, can you give us an idea of the sort of scale of the business at the moment, and perhaps maybe where the next sort of blocks are being built globally or internationally?
Yeah. Well, it's amazing, Chris. Do you remember when you first came? We were in a kind of in the corner of an office on the 3rd floor of the Brose building. We took over 2 floors of the Brose building, and then March of last year, we were moving into our own head office, our own building on the Science Park with FeatureSpace across the front door. I mean, that's such a moment for a company that's kind of origins in the university, and you end up with your building on the Science Park. It's those real kind of steps of achievement that you can see from those Cambridge, kind of originated businesses. And of course, then lockdown occurred. So I think the maximum number of people that's ever been in a new office is about 30. However, we've continued to expand, and we're now just under about 350 people. There's the majority is still in the UK. The majority is still Cambridge based or Cambridgeshire. But we've got now over 50 people in the US. We've got our first team based in Singapore because we won contracts in Asia. So we need delivery teams and customer support teams there now. We've got a unit of guys in Israel that are there supporting all of our testing for us. So yeah, I mean, it's quite remarkable the way, we've been able to get that global expansion. And it's not as hard as one might imagine, because especially in lockdown, if you can recruit the right people, we're all operating digitally now. There are no kind of country boundaries, even though our politicians are doing their darndest to keep them there. But we're free to be able to trade everywhere around the world, because all you need is a laptop and an ability to be able to upload the technology.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually on the recruitment side, is there still, obviously I know the Cambridge scene relatively well. Is there still a strong link with graduates from the university, or are you very international in your kind of search for graduates? I mean, obviously some of the people listening might think this is a fantastic business. I'm a graduate leaving my degree, getting my degree in computer science. I want to work for them. I'm kind of curious, how does that work?
I would say, well, thanks for the advert. Come and work for us. Yeah, no, I mean, the great thing is, again, during these difficult times, we're expanding, we're hiring. And, I've always wanted to be able to recruit from anywhere around the world, the brightest minds, with the brightest minds with the right attitude. And, all of our scientists have got a deep academic background. And we're quite open-minded to whichever educational institution they come from. But of course, because we are in Cambridge, it does mean that we do attract a lot of the Cambridge grads, which is terrific. But it's not exclusive. And obviously, when we moved to Atlanta, we wanted to place ourselves very close to Georgia Tech, because there's some superb scientists coming out of there. And at the time we went there, and when we arrived, we were the first international machine learning company to arrive in Atlanta. We received an awful lot of coverage for that. And that then, what we're told is that a huge number of the scientists that were graduating from Georgia Tech, most of the opportunities were on the West Coast. They were all having to leave to go to California, but many didn't. So that gave us a pool of talent who wanted to stay closer to the East Coast or remain in Georgia. And so that enabled us to be able to recruit some really great people into the US team.
Okay, fantastic. So just moving slightly into a different area, there's a lot potentially on the horizon for UK tech in general in 2021. I mean, I believe, you know, Deliveroo are potentially going to IPO. They're a business that, again, going back to 2013, 14, which I was very close to when Notwix was at Bloomberg. And I'm keen to hear your thoughts on, you know, I'm a proud Brit. I love tech. I want British tech to become the sort of renaissance of the next 10 years, and for us to build that kind of ecosystem that I suppose the US West Coast has always been looked at to be the leader in. And really, you know, FeatureSpace, you're a leader in cybersecurity. Just, you know, are you going to stay in Britain, be built in Britain, and give lots of Brits lots of jobs? You know, I'm just curious, you know, your passion to be part of that UK tech revolution as we move into, you know, the period of a lot of startups and scale-ups really becoming key drivers of the UK economy in the next 10 years.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, I think for me, it's a personal ambition. You know, I worked at Yahoo in the early days. I was there for about, you know, 5 years. And the great thing about the US market is that it's got this phenomenal scale. So, you know, if you create something in the US and sell it across the US, you can be gigantic just because of the scale of that one market. You know, if you can create something in the UK and you just export it within your own shores, you know, or sell it within your own shores, you can only be a minnow in comparison to this scale that you can achieve if you're in the US. So very early on, I knew that if we wanted to be able to realize the ambitions that we had for our technology, and also because we knew it worked better than anything else, and so therefore, you know, if we could execute effectively, then we could show the world that we could, therefore prevention could be better than anything else, and now anti-money laundering.
Yeah.
So we had all the evidence for that, and so then it was a question of could we execute, you know, by building those partnerships internationally, and the answer to that is yes. So I think that, you know, for Britain, what we've got to do is continue innovating. You know, I've been on the board of big media companies, and I've seen the disruption that's taken place there, and they don't exist any longer. They're a shadow of what they were. I've been on the board of big retail companies, and they've gone as well. So you can see that digital wave, the transformation that's taken place. And we've got a new one that's taking place right now, and it's the machine learning revolution. That is, we're right in the thick of it. And so we have to be world leaders at this. We've got the know-how, we've got the brain power, and we are showing people that there's an appetite for this technology globally. So, but it means we have to be brave, and we have to persuade people around the world to embrace what we've invented. And, you know, sometimes in Britain, we're just not up for the fight for that.
Conservative, I think, is the term we're looking for.
I have a question for, so identifying those waves, right? And we're in now the machine learning wave. What's the next one that's, you know, just a ripple at the moment and not quite a wave? Is it quantum computing? Is it, you know, something else maybe?
Well, it's a great question. And, you know, I mean, that who knows for sure? You have to keep your eye out, or, you know, be scouring the whole time. But for us at FeatureSpace, we've got a new invention, which I'll share with you today. So you can hear it here first.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. So we have a new patent pending technology. It's called automated deep behavioral networks. And so all I would suggest is, in the same way as when I was first at FeatureSpace and we invented adaptive behavioral analytics, you know, we invented that. That was not an expression that anyone in the world had heard of until FeatureSpace came along. I think that the automated deep behavioral networks will become a generic term, and it's one that we've invented.
So you heard it here first. Coin the term.
Yep.
And I suppose following on from that, Martina, you know, when you have these discussions with C-suite personnel in the variety of sectors that you are, you know, working or selling FeatureSpace product into, you know, has there been a real mixed shift amongst those C-suites in the last 8 to 10 years, where the CEOs or the people you're talking to, they really get the problem you're trying to, you know, solve for them? They get machine learning, they get that whole mindset that you quite clearly, you know, are showing us that you are an expert in on this call. And, you know, is there that, or is there still a bit of like, it's a bit ploddy, and some companies they don't get it as well? I'm just curious, what's the mindset? Has there been a mindset shift on that?
I think that's kind of, you're describing the kind of the psychology of humanity there, Chris, aren't you? Really, it's you know, in my experience, good leaders of companies are incredibly inquisitive and want to know and want to learn, and they will, you know, they'll embrace the discussion, but then they don't know how to implement it. So then they rely on the next set of people internally, and generally that's where blocks for you know, change occur, because we all tend to try to protect what we've already got. We don't really run at and embrace change. It's just human nature. And so then what you always try to do is identify the change agent within the company, the go-getter, the person who's prepared to say, I'm going to stick my neck out for this because I think it's going to be really good. And early days, when you're trying to transform a sector, it's those advocates that you need to find who will then really work with you in order to prove that there's a new and better way of doing something. So that, you know, I think that's just what business life is like everywhere, always. But, you know, the great thing is with technology, if you can prove that you can provide an uplift and you can work with the right people with the right attitude inside the organization, then you can really affect change.
You know, there's a lot of scale-ups who are trying to make that leap from, you know, having their first few customers to becoming a leader in their field, like you've done. And what would be your advice to those founders? What's the sort of top tip, that Martina's top tip to scale a business? Because obviously you took it from, you know, where we were in 2014 to where it is now. I'm just curious, what's that tip? And I suppose, what's the banana skin to sort of try and avoid or try and minimize?
Yeah, well, funny enough, you know, especially being at home with, you know, young adults, and you look at what they're going through at the moment, and, you know, their lives have been changed so dramatically. And so I think, you know, if I think about the conversation that I've had with my daughters as a result of the COVID crash, there are two things that I would really want for them. And the first is resilience. You know, we're nothing without resilience. And one of the things we've done at FeatureSpace, we've introduced a kind of a personality profiling thing. It's a preference tool. It's called Quest. And the idea of it is just to try and see, where your preferences are. And of course, when you're working with an awful lot of scientists and we're in lockdown, trying to encourage people to have conversations that are based around humanity, it's a mechanic for teasing that out. And one of the areas that comes out in that is high or low resilience. And I just think that resilience, particularly in this world, it's just waking up in the morning and being able to see something positive, to be able to have that inner conversation that enables you to have a foundation of resilience, I think is so fundamental. And then the other is the intellect and the wit to be able to think your way out of any situation. So I think for all of us in the world at the moment, they kind of, to me, seem like the two most important personal attributes that we need, to keep us going.
I would say those traits as well, if you were able to do a wide view of it, are probably very common in entrepreneurs and change agents.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, good point.
That's the thing. It's like every single day when you're starting a company, there are more knockdowns than there are successes. So you have to celebrate each one. Guess what? This person in this company has agreed to a meeting with me. Hooray! That's so exciting. Yeah. It's a small win. But if you can celebrate those small wins every single day, then you kind of create an energy and momentum and a sense of positivity. And my goodness, I feel so blessed at the moment because, I feel as if we have a fortnightly all hands meeting with the team. And I always start it with, thankfully, everybody's healthy and well. We haven't had to furlough anybody. We haven't had to make any redundancies. Our customers are still choosing us. They're still paying us. We've still got plenty of money in the bank. So I think it's like, let's all remind ourselves.
Gratitude,
to be grounded, and of course, we've all just had a smack in the face, haven't we, around how important health is. We all take that for granted, but, we can't take that for granted any longer.
Yeah. I think another big aspect of that entrepreneurial mindset as well is deciding which fires you want to let burning when you have to go home at the end of the day, right? Because there's going to be some, at least a few.
Oh, yes. If we're lucky, tomorrow is another day and we can, address it again. But yeah, we had our all hands yesterday and, I just said, look, if you need a pep up in the morning, just look in your face, look in the mirror and say, I'm marvelous, because anyone who works at FeatureSpace is, and I'm needed because everyone who works at FeatureSpace is,
So that's great. And I think, you're a fantastic leader. It's clear to me in a lot of the businesses I've worked with over the years, both, the big public companies and to the tiniest startups, there aren't that many fantastic, amazing leaders. And I think, you are one of them. And I think they're very good.
I'll let you be the judge of that.
No, you are. And I mean, credit where credit's due. And look, so one of the other things we love to sort of ask, great leaders like yourself is you will have been courted or had outreach from a lot of VCs or funds or institutional investors. It kind of like, your experience has taught you certain lessons or insights there. And, clearly there are, at the moment, we're in a bit of a kind of Series A up race for these funds to invest money in the high quality founders. And I'm just curious as to any tips there that you might have for aspirational VCs or funds that would be trying to invest in hot tech companies like yourselves.
Well, I think the first thing is, if you can see, I've still got the scars across my knuckles from dragging around the streets of Mayfair in Manhattan, kind of trying to encourage people to invest in our company, and at every stage of the way, all of those investors have got benchmarks that you have to hit. And if you don't reach those benchmarks, then they're not going to invest in you. You turn around and off you go. And of course, the task is to try and persuade them to break the rule, because your company is going to be so much better than everything else they could possibly have invested in, or at least as good as their best bets. So, again, I think that comes back to the resilient point. There are so many rejections every day that, when you do find, again, I suppose it's very similar to that point we were making earlier, when you find those individuals who are prepared to stick their neck out for you and go to their investment committee and say, I think I found something special here, it's just so rewarding. And I again feel very blessed, because the investors that we have at FeatureSpace have been with us for a very long time. Their funds are evergreen, so that puts the company in a secure position, because it doesn't mean that we have somebody who needs to sell out, and that creates a corporate event for the company that's different to what's right for our customers and our team members. I also think that having the ambition early on in the type and scale of company that we wanted to become also enables you to take decisions. So for instance, Gordon Hurst is the chairman of FeatureSpace. Gordon was the group CFO of Capita, one of Britain's most successful ever publicly quoted companies. And he joined when it had 43 people, and he left when it was worth £8.5 billion. And I think that shows the ambition that a company can have if you can attract an individual like that to become your chairman. So making sure that the decisions that you take today are the decisions that are reflective of the ambition that you have for the future, I think really help investment companies believe that that they're backing a team that's a really ambitious team and can execute. I think the other thing about that then is, in the technology world, it's you've heard this so many times, you've probably seen it so many times, but there are, the belief is that the team that you start with is never the team that you end with. You have to churn through the early stage people in order to be able to get to the kind of scale up and the big type of company that you need. And I remember thinking, I don't want FeatureSpace to be like that. We can do it differently. And so if I really want us to be as big as we could possibly be, I want to recruit the best talent I can possibly recruit now, and young, brilliant talent. And then we're all going to grow together, and we're going to invest in training and development. So, though that experience doesn't become experience, they have to learn somewhere along the line. Well, why not actually teach ourselves everything that we need to learn and prepare ourselves for the next stage of our journey? So we hired ourselves in a business coach. He had huge amounts of experience coaching the leadership teams of very large organizations over the years, and he has stayed with us every step of the way. So he spots around, he looks around the corner and says, right, you're going to be here next. These now the things you need to learn about. So we're match fit by the time we get to that next stage of scale, and can have thought about it, be prepared, and be impressive for our customers and our investors by the time we get there.
That's really interesting, trying to straighten out the S-curve, right? So that you don't plateau at every growth stage. And you're just a straight line.
Well, do you know, that's so true. And why does it become an S? It probably becomes an S because you lose the relationship with the customers, and you lose knowledge in your company. And in a company like ours, where it's about the relationships that we have with our customers and the quality of the technology that we produce every day, if you lose that intellectual capital, you then slow down, you lose the relationships, and you lose the knowledge that's gone into building the technology in the first place. So far better to recruit and train and prepare. And then one of the things I always say is, there are lots of people who've done this before. We can always bring people in to be part of that development and coaching. We can learn from them, and then we can apply that and move on again. So I think that's the other thing with the VC world. There's an adage which is, oh, well, you know, we're just going to come in, we're going to help you, you know, we'll help you change your team. But actually, I feel at FeatureSpace, that would be a real retrograde step. Much better to recruit well, train well, develop well, and be prepared for the next stage of your growth. And of course, embedded in there is the ambition, because if you know that you want a British company that's publicly quoted, that's got a value of 8.5 billion, and the person who's your chair has done it before, well, and he says to you, oh my goodness, you've even got, you know, the assets that you've got to get there are even better than the ones when we started out at Capita. That's really inspiring, motivational, and makes you believe that actually, even though, and thank you for the accolades, Chris, what you think we've achieved today is still tiny in comparison to the growth that we've still got to achieve.
Just still going on the track of funding, I'm always intrigued by founders and leaders' views on, you know, as you've got bigger, does it become easier to get more funding?
It does.
How much easier?
Does. Sure. Well, as easy as, you know, we actually had proactive term sheets put in front of us, which I nearly fell off my chair, you know. Somebody
you just look at those people and you call the shots. You basically you go by what can these investors do for us? What's the mechanic that's going through your mind there, Martina?
Well, I think the first one is the big dollops of realism, because we are living in a frothy valuation world at the moment, and I've seen the ups and downs of that through my career several times. And you know, all I've ever wanted to do at FeatureSpace is build a business that's true to the promises that we've made to our customers, and that we deliver, and then they'll pay you. And so long as you can show your growth and your income stream, then any investor at any stage should feel happy to run their ruler over your book and give you a valuation on it. So you take that as a fundamental. The other thing I've always wanted to do is not overhype the price. I've always wanted to make sure that we keep the price of the company reined in, because we all know the problems that occur as a result of high valuations. So if you can keep your valuation pegged to, you know, genuine metrics that are based off, you know, the revenues, let's say, or your growth rate, then, you know, again, that I think you can have a big dollop of realism in that. And then I think the final thing is that I always think that you want your investors to feel as if they got a bit of a deal when they put their money in. So what you want to be able to do is bring them in at a price where they can, within a year, see enormous growth on the value of the company. And then that way everyone remains happy. And it makes my life as the CEO an awful lot easier, because I've managed expectation well, you know, that everyone's happy. It can go, oh, look, I'm clever. I've invested in that company and I can still see that there's real growth ahead of me. So I think it's very tempting sometimes to get caught up in the, look, this is this great valuation that we're going to put in your business, but sometimes it's a bit like fool's gold.
Yeah.
We're keen to always know what's the drivers on women in tech, on diversity, on ESG. How close to your heart are those within FeatureSpace?
Yeah, they're vitally important, Chris. And I think that, you know, the best way that I can show people that, you know, it doesn't matter what your background is, you can get there, you can achieve it, is by doing it. You know, it's by showing people that it's possible. And if being a female leader of this company, and I can show that, you know, we can achieve greater growth than anybody else, and that we can win more contracts than others, and that we get our customers loving us more than anybody else, and that our team members enjoy working in our company more, you know. So you take whatever metric, I want to kick the ball out of the park. And I want to kick the ball out of the park, I mean, I've done it lots of times, thankfully, in my career, because I can't help myself. That's just my character. But I want to do it because it's, you know, for those to follow along behind, to know that if you follow that route, and you actually admit your ambition. So many people are really shy about admitting their ambition, and there's nothing wrong with that. So admit your ambition and go for it. So and then I think the other thing is that, you know, there are lots of bits that are hard, and that's the resilience thing. You've got to keep on pushing through it. And I've watched so many people over the years kind of give up. And then the other thing for women is that, you know, I mean, for goodness sake, you can't claim your pension these days until you're 67. So, you know, it's a long old journey. And the kids bit of it is a very short bit of it. So, you know, plan your career out over a long period of time and realize that you can have different parts of your career. I mean, I describe mine as, you know, I've had three careers, you know, and I'm in, who knows, I might have a fourth, but I'm currently in my third. But yeah, and that's
I have a feeling you probably will have a fourth.
If I haven't worn myself out. But look, I think again, it's people who, you know, I'm again really grateful to Mike Lynch, because, you know, he just wants results, and he's totally agnostic to, you know, kind of anyone's background or anything like that. It's just, right, I just want results, deliver results, and you're wonderful. And then it was Berry Gordy, you know, the guy who was one of the founders of Motown. And I loved an expression that he made, which is, the only color I see is green. And I love that. And I think that's what business should be. It should just be, you know, it's just, you know, FeatureSpace is a scientific company. It's all about evidence, and that's the only thing that matters. And one of my proudest days when I was at FeatureSpace was as we were scaling, and there were lots of people coming through the door for interviews, and somebody turned around, was sitting in a big open plan area, and somebody turned around and looked at me and went, do you know what, Martina? When the doorbell rings and we open up the door, and I see the person standing on the threshold, and I look at them, and I've got no idea whether they'll get a job at FeatureSpace or not, because I can't tell by looking at them.
Great.
Wow, that's great. We're I think we're coming to the close. We've taken a lot of your time, Martina, and it's been fascinating and great to catch up. I'm curious, as always the case. I always ask this, and what's keeping you busy in those hours where you put the FeatureSpace baby slightly to sleep and maybe focus on other things? And just curious, how do you relax, and what's Martina do outside of the office?
Well, you know, I'm lucky I live in an area where we've got some good walks on the doorstep, so I'm able to get out and get fresh air and, you know, put my feet.
Not like Richmond Park, which is literally a beach. It's like thousands of people are in Richmond Park whenever I go there, which is a big bugbear of mine. But, you know, clearly that's life. Yeah.
There are lots more people on the walks around here, which is good, because it's a beautiful spot. So it's nice to know that more people are being able to you know, to see it and experience it. So that's one good thing. Another thing is that I've been so busy and so hectic traveling, and I'm really not missing traveling, I have to say, but I've been so busy that I haven't been able to sit down for any length of time and watch box sets. So I've caught up with some box sets. That's
okay. What have you been watching? That's what we really need to know. All the viewers will want to know that.
All right. Well, of course, I haven't.
Top three. Top three.
The Last Dance. Obviously The Crown. I hadn't watched any of that, so I've now seen all of The Crown. And
about halfway through.
The most recent one is Lupin.
Oh, it's on my list. I've heard great things.
Oh, you know, what a brilliant actor. Yeah, so there's a second series of that coming out, so I can't wait to see that. And then how about this? You probably might not have predicted this one, but at Christmas we have a tradition in our house, which is a jigsaw puzzle. And there's something that really appeals to my completer finisher, a bit obsessive compulsive nature. So we've got this 2,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, which was a beast. So it was staying up until 3 o'clock in the morning finishing the jigsaw puzzle, but my husband got it from a secondhand shop and it had 2 pieces missing. So that was Not quite as
Cardinal
satisfying.
offense.
Anthony can associate with that because you're big on your board games, aren't you, Anthony?
Huge board gamer, and my wife is a puzzler as well, so I can definitely empathize. 2 missing pieces. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, no, and of
Were
course,
there
yeah,
accusations
Monday night,
flying at first? you've put it somewhere.
No.
Where is it?
No, nothing like that at all. You know, you just know, don't you? So you get the kind of 3/4 of the way through, and you kind of go, that blue bit. There's no blue bits left. It's it's
just have to make your own.
Okay. Well, look. Thank you again, and look, I look forward to the day where we can go. Is it Smallings, the place that we usually have a bite to?
Yeah.
It begins with S. It's been I've been racking my brain, but Sweetings. Hopefully it's still going, I hope, and if anyone's listening from Sweetings, hello, and we'll be back soon.
Don't give up.
Yes, and look, you know, Martina, it's been brilliant as always. Thank you for your time. You're a brilliant leader, and some great observations there for everyone listening and watching. And you know, I hope 2021 brings you the success you deserve. So, thank you, and take care.
I think it's more that I've just been around a long time, and so I've just been able to apply a lot of the things I've learned over the years to help try.
Not at all. You are brilliant. All right, thank you, and have a lovely weekend. Take care.
Bye.